Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
At this time, I'd like to call the Nash County Board of Commissioners meeting to order for November the 16th. And it is customary for our board to begin each of our meetings with a pledge of allegiance to the flag that Commissioner Outlaw will lead us in. And we also have an invocation. And during the invocation, you're welcome to stand and join our board. You're welcome to use this time for a moment of silence, or certainly you can use it for any prayer that you may wish to have yourself. And at this time, I'd like to call on Commissioner Combs to lead us in the invocation. Mr. Combs?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day, Lord. We thank you for all the many blessings you give to us each and every day, Lord. Forgive us when we take you so much for granted, Lord. Forgive us when we sin against you every day. Lord, we just pray now as we come to this meeting, Lord, that we would do what's for the benefit of the citizens of Nash County, Lord, that we would do things that are pleasing in your sight, and we will all work for your glory. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Would you join us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If there's no objection, I'd like to add one item to the agenda. I had asked Stacy not to put this item on the agenda because I felt like Ms. Richardson might not agree with it and might not show up if indeed we did put it on the agenda. So it would be the board adopting a resolution on behalf of Commissioner Richardson. And if it pleases the board, I'd like to read it at this time. Any objection to me adding this to the agenda? I'm sure not. Seeing none. The resolution which we're going to present to her as soon as we read it and adopt it says this. It's a resolution of Nash County Board of Commissioners to honor the public service of Ms. Lou Mitchell Richardson. Whereas Ms. Lou Richardson has served as a member of the Nash County Board of Commissioners for 25 years, having been appointed to the seat for Commissioner District 1 when her husband, Kermit Richardson, passed away in 1995. She has been reelected in every election since her appointment. Whereas during her long tenure as a member of the Board of County Commissioners of Nash, Lou Richardson has always worked diligently to represent the needs of all Nash County citizens. And whereas her service, wisdom, and guidance to Nash County have contributed to the growth and economic welfare of Nash County. And whereas during her tenure on the Board of Commissioners, Nash County has accomplished a great deal, included but not limited certainly to the addition of a senior service department and 2 operating senior centers. The establishment of a human resource department, the beginning of a public utility department where the county now owns and operates the Central Nash and water and sewer system, and is currently establishing the Northern Nash water system. The establishment of a county-wide parks and recreation department, of which she has been one of the strong supporters for parks, especially the Numerical Park at Coopers, as well as the establishment of a unit for grants and housing and the beginning of a county-wide broadband system. And whereas Ms. Richardson has long been involved in the political process in Nash County, having been a member of Nash County Democratic Women for 35 years. Whereas she has demonstrated her public service and active involvement in numerous organizations, including service with the Spalding Family Resource Center for over 10 years, service with the Community Advisory Committee for 12 years, service with the Boys and Girls Club of Nash County for 20 years, and service with Senior Services for over 20 years as well. She has also served as a member of the Home and Community Care Block Grant Committee and has been a longtime supporter and caretaker for Swift Creek Elementary School. Ms. Richardson has also been a leader and active member of the Pine Chapel Baptist Church for more than 70 years. Whereas Ms. Richardson's excellent attendance record at Board of Commissioners meetings, joint school board meetings, special call meetings, and recess meetings is strong evidence of her dedication to Nash County. And whereas Ms. Richardson's love for Nash County is exceeded only by her deep love for her family. And whereas the efforts and contributions of Ms. Richardson will long be remembered and appreciated by her fellow commissioners and the citizens of Nash County, now therefore be it resolved that the Nash County Board of Commissioners hereby honors the public service of Ms. Lou Mitchell Richardson. The board wishes to express its great appreciation for your years of service, for your professionalism, and most of all, your friendship. This 16th day of November, 2020. And at this time, I'd call for a motion to adopt this resolution.
Motion to adopt.
Motion by Commissioner Combs, seconded by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Looks like they're all gonna play nice today, Ms. Richardson. This resolution will now be signed on behalf of the board and placed in the permanent record for Nash County.
I just heard something read in there, and I just want to make sure I'm clear on it.
Yes, ma'am.
I think you gave me Swift Creek School, and I think they intended Cedar Grove.
I could have read it wrong.
You know, you always told me that was my school.
I did tell you that was your
Both of
school.
them in my district, but I'm next door to Cedar Grove, so don't leave Cedar Grove out. Swift Creek is okay.
Cedar Grove, it will be,
I just.
what have I got? Stacy?
No, I just want everybody, it's okay.
We'll look at that.
Yeah, but I just want everybody to know that, yeah, both of them in my district.
I
love
think
them both.
either way, it might be an issue that I caused because I'm the one that
Yeah,
brought
she-
that up and added it to that because
Right.
I always felt like it was your school, but
Yeah.
we'll check that. And I may have read it wrong. I
That's
could-
okay.
could well have.
No
But it would
problem.
certainly be
Thank-
right.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Would you join me up front and let's present this to you? Mr. Belfield, you are the Logging Service Commissioner on the board, or will be. So would you, following her, so you will be 1st of December anyway, so would you join us up front as well, if you would, please, sir? And Mr. Lamb, if you could join us in presenting this to her.
You go right ahead.
On behalf of the Nash County Board of Commissioners, we would like to present you with this frame of the resolution that was just read and will be signed. And has been signed.
Take our mask off just for 1 second.
1 second, yeah.
Slide it just a little bit. There you go. All right.
Congratulations, ma'am.
I need to resubmit a new page.
Ms. Richardson, did you have anything you wanted to say? I'd certainly be glad to turn the floor over to you, ma'am.
Well, there's not very much I can say. I could say a whole lot, because 20 years, you know, I can say a whole lot. And not that all of it was necessarily good, but, you know, we worked through the bad and all that we have to go through, and that's what we've done for over 20 years. And I'm still missing two of my comrades from 95, and that is my manager when I came on board, Mr. Wayne Deal, and clerk to the board, Mr. Wayne Moore. And they were here when I began, and they were, as I say about what we have now, I can't say it's the best, but it's one of the best. And that's what saved me, learned me, and taught me as I went along. And to all those that have sent words of congratulations, whatever else, I got so many cards. Most time I only can read about two at a time. Then I have to sit and absorb, because they are beautiful. It's the wordings that are from all the people that signed them. Some of them I wasn't even looking or thinking to hear from, but that's what work and togetherness brings to those that try to do what is right. And to all of you, I said thank you, and I appreciate it to the highest.
Well said, thank you, ma'am. Let's give Ms. Richardson one more hand of applause. We'll now move to item number 4 on the agenda, and Commissioner Outlaw, you were responsible for getting these lined up, so if you're okay, I'm gonna turn it over to you and let you call on how you've got it lined up, 4 or 5, and then we'll go on to 6, if that's okay with you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today, we have representatives from Cloudwise, Ms. Patsy McGee, who has facilitated this presentation. I thank you for that and all that you do in the county. Ms. McGee's going to come up and she'll make some brief comments. Then she'll introduce Mr. Sean Olson, and he can introduce any members of his group that may be with him today. But we appreciate all you do, Patsy, and we appreciate all that Cloudwise is doing to help us expand broadband in Nash County.
Thank you. And Commissioner Richardson, it's been a pleasure getting to know you, both at the COG and here, and this is another project you can be proud of. I just want to give a brief history of how we got to where we are now with the high-speed internet initiative, and then I'm going to turn it over to Cloudwise for a more detailed and technical presentation. In 2014, you may recall that we surveyed the community to document the need for high-speed internet in the unserved and underserved areas of the county. The following year, this resulted in us hosting a provider meeting where we presented those survey results to a variety of high-speed internet providers. And then in 2016, we released a request for proposals to determine interest, and one provider responded. That was Cloudwise. In 2017, following some new legislation approved by the General Assembly, Nash County issued a broader request for proposals, and 4 providers responded with varying technologies and varying cost. And we interviewed each firm, and in 2018, the commissioners entered into a public-private partnership with Cloudwise for phase 1 of our high-speed internet initiative. This was a trial in the hardest areas of the county to serve. Phase 1, the pilot program, was completed in the fall of 2019. And phase 2 is well underway and scheduled to be complete late in 2020 or early in 2021. And we're hopeful that in 2021 we can move forward with Cloudwise for phase 3, for which the State Broadband Infrastructure Office has awarded a grant to help with the cost. And Sean Olson, the president and CEO of Cloudwise, will talk more about that in his presentation. And I'd like to introduce him now to give a PowerPoint presentation.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hey, good afternoon,
Hey, Sean.
and congratulations. I think I had the opportunity to meet you at one of our town halls that we were at, and enjoy all the work and appreciate all the work that you've done. Let's see. All right. So today I'm going to walk through, I guess, a quick history. Ms. McGee provided a bit of a background, but I'll provide a little bit deeper detail into what's transpired and where we are, as well as what we believe the future looks like for expanding this project. This is a little bit of data we just wanted to kind of share with you guys. And this is based off of current census data. There are about 45,000 households listed in Nash County. Of those households, and this is based off of what the FCC's data, of those households, about a little over 1,000 are considered to have service under 10 by 1 service. Per the FCC, the definition of broadband is 25 by 3. That's 25 meg download, 3 meg upload. Between 10 and 25 meg, there are about a little over 3,000 households currently in Nash County. So roughly about 4,000 households less than 25 by 3 in Nash County to date. Based again on FCC data, about 41,000, basically the rest of the households are deemed to be served per the FCC. There's about 267 farms per our last census taken, and the businesses in this community are about 2,200. So those are all kind of the factors that we look at, and most providers would look at when determining feasibility of bringing broadband to a community. All that said, those make up for a positive scenario for a provider to come in. In 2014, again, Ms. McGee mentioned the survey data was taken. There were 2 that were done, one by the general public and one by the school system. The general public surveys were about 344 households back in 2014 that kind of raised their hand and said that we don't have adequate service. And we've recently, when we first started this project, we set up a way to capture real-time data from folks that are interested in a better quality of service. And so far, as of 11/9, we have right around 1,000, just under 1,000 folks that have signed up with interest in service. Any questions on that? Most of that's just data, but
Do you want questions as you go?
sure. I think that's fine.
I don't know why it had never dawned on me before, but apparently, do you agree that we have 41,455 households adequately served?
I do not.
Okay, so because the numbers that doesn't mean it's true.
That's correct.
Okay, because,
I would agree with
when you
that.
put it like that, it looks like what we're really working towards is 1,076 people, and I just knew that couldn't be correct.
I
But
do
that's
not believe that that's
FCC data.
accurate.
Okay, I think I
And I'll
understand.
go into that too also as we talk about the grants and those sort of things.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt you.
He was right. This is hard to read. I've got it right here. So I just kind of want to walk through the 3 phases. Again, these are 3 phases that we created, I guess, just around 2 years ago to put all this together. The total project cost estimated by Nash County Investment was about $2.5 million at that point. We went through phase 1. You can kind of see the dates there, but generally speaking, in 2019, we went through phase 1. The goal of phase 1 was to pick 2 areas that were chosen by the county in terms, and by looking at the data that came in, to understand where the most need was, and that was kind of that northwestern and southwestern area of Nash County. We then designed a network that would ultimately not just withstand the test of time, but also service those particular areas using some new technology that we believe would help close this gap. We completed that in 2019 successfully. We were able to bring on 22 customers ultimately. And the goal of that was really just to prove, A, the technology as well as the capability. But ultimately to prove the technology and the capability in order to bring service to those particular areas. We completed that successfully in 2019, reviewed what phase 2 would look like, and ultimately created phase 2. Phase 2 would extend this network. We do a lot of things, but ultimately would extend this network to 5 different service areas throughout Nash County. We would move from a temporary solution that we put together for the trial to a permanent solution, to where we would bring in multiple fiber providers to service that network. We ultimately would start to hire within the community. We have successfully hired 2 people that live and work here every day doing installations. And ultimately, residential service would come available in 2020. In addition, and as we set forth in this 2 years ago, in working to get this grant program put together with the state, that CloudWise would work with the county ultimately to apply for a grant to help fund the continual expansion of this network. And in this year, earlier this year, Nash County CloudWise was awarded a grant to help expand the network into phase 3. Kind of an overview, phase 3, we originally started that we were going to expand into 8 areas, into 8 towers. That has increased ultimately because of the grant to 11 towers, 11 service areas. So what we're proposing for the next phase. We are also proposing to bring in 5 high-speed community centers, which we will go through and designate throughout Nash County, which would bring ultimately gigabit access to 5 community centers around the county. And then we will begin offering a high-speed commercial service throughout Nash County. And lastly, it has always been our goal to make sure that we provide digital literacy programming. And so our goal is to start that process in the upcoming year through programming, hopefully in partnership with the county, but definitely in partnership with the state and a number of other agencies that we'd be working with. Ultimate goal of to make sure that folks know of any age and wherever they come from, how the internet, how to use it, and how it can help better their lives. Any questions there? So just kind of want to walk you all through ultimately from a little bit deeper level. So ultimately by the end of phase 2, these are the 5 service areas that we will have online. This network is capable of serving around 1,000 households that fall kind of within these circles. Obviously, the internet doesn't have necessarily a border, if you will. So these circles are not definite, but as we start to add more and more customers, we start to get more precise maps as we create these. And then you'll see kind of on the bottom graph, roughly the number of households that get serviced ultimately by each of these locations. And the dots on the map, in case you have that in front of you, I know it's kind of hard to see in the screen, but the dots are the survey data, people that have gone to our website, clicked on the Nash County site, and ultimately completed that form. There's a lot of dots. Within phase 3, as I mentioned earlier, the goal has always been to go after a grant. CloudWise has done a very good job at working with particular counties and making sure that we could secure these. We were able to secure around $680,000 to expand this network in Nash County. That would require a contribution ultimately of what we originally planned on, which was around $1.1 million from Nash County to extend that network. This would add the 6 new coverage areas that I had mentioned, just over 1,000 households served in this area, as well as the other items we discussed earlier. And obviously, we would continue through this process to receive those intake forms and ultimately help us determine where and when we need to go to additional areas. The green circles that you see on the map are the proposed Phase 3 areas. Yes, sir.
What area is that covering? Phase 3?
On the map, it'll be the green circles that are on the map. So the white circles are the current phased into Phase 2, and then Phase 3 would be all the green areas. And this is ultimately what we've submitted to the state that we were able to capture additional funding for.
So you still have part of the southern part of the county to cover?
We do. Yes.
How far out was that going, trying to reach Haventon area?
Yeah, so with the technology that we're using, I think when we originally started this a few years ago, the goal was to get between around 3 to 5 miles of coverage from wherever the towers are located. We've gotten as far as 6 and 7 miles, but what we've learned is that quality generally degrades. So we're trying to keep these, when we submit these to the state, to around 3 to 4 miles. That's what we feel comfortable with. And so these optimally are 4-mile rings that are located here. So 4 miles from any of these towers.
So if Phase 2 doesn't reach that area, will Phase 3 kind of come in and meet?
It can. We also, and again, as we kind of originally spoke, so these are all the main towers throughout that we intend on bringing online, as well as the ones that we have. But we're also doing some trials on some ways to extend the network just another mile, a less expensive option. And we currently have 2 of those that we're working on right now. They're a lot less costly, but they do kind of help close in some of the gaps without having to spend as much money.
Good. Just trying to make sure everybody's covered that want it.
Yes, ma'am. And also, there are 2 towers in Halifax County that do bleed over into Nash County that are part of another project we're working on with them. So that will help that northern area as well. And to your east, we've got, I think, 2 to 3 towers that bleed over from Edgecombe County into Nash County, which will also, once those come online, we'll be able to kind of show what those coverage will look like. So there is some areas around us that are helping this too.
Good.
So these towers going to be set up, you can have cross-county service?
So it's a wireless technology, so obviously there's no real border to it. But the way that we operate
Well,
when
I'm
we,
just thinking about the distance from each tower. It can only serve so many.
yeah, so like I mentioned, it's around 4 miles is what we're pretty comfortable with to service. So if you have towers that kind of sit pretty close to the borders, they do tend to bleed over. Yes, ma'am.
What is your benchmark to go from phase 2 to phase 3?
So a couple things. So ultimately, what we originally had put forth to you all is that we would have optimally 100 customers that were up and live on the network. Because this is part of a grant, I think I'm pretty confident we'll be there before the end of the year. We have about 70 right now that are expected to go live in the next 2 weeks. And so our hope is to do around 50 a month. But that being the case, since this is a state grant, part of this is being funded, optimally the network gets started in January, phase 3. There's obviously, because of state grant, there's a timeline, if you will, for the network to be completed. Other questions? So just wanted to really quick kind of go over how the funding has been to date. So originally, as I mentioned, we expected around a $2.5 million project. We believe through phase 3 at least that it'll be just under that. The trial that we started with, just as a reminder, was around $332,000 put forth by Nash County. Cloudwise had invested just a little over $350,000 into that project. Phase 2 was expected to be around $950,000. I think there's about 10% still outstanding as we're wrapping up some final items. We have invested just over $1.5 million into that as Cloudwise that we've raised for Nash County. And then in Phase 3, the actual number that was submitted and awarded by the state was $686,000. Again, the $1.1 million recommended to Nash County, and then Cloudwise will contribute another $1.2 million into the development of that network. Other items I wanted to bring up as well, I think these two, they're definitely noteworthy. We did work with Nash County to apply for a CDBG grant, coronavirus, and I believe the max of that grant was around $900,000. A little over $300,000 of that were items to help extend service to harder to reach areas, low medium income areas. You can see there, definitely can't read it up there, but you can see the areas that would be affected by or impacted by bringing service to these areas. This is Wi-Fi, not necessarily broadband. So we would basically light up particular areas to where folks can go and get access to high-speed internet. It was around a $322,000 project. We will also be able to use this in later phases, the work that we're doing here, to extend service for broadband. So it's kind of a double win here. I expect we'll hear back, I don't know, within the next few weeks as to whether Nash County gets this awarded. The other item I mentioned, because of what's going on in the world, obviously broadband can't come fast enough as we talk to everybody, but it has also caused us to start to ramp up service more, not just within Nash County, but within a regional area. We are making Nash kind of our regional office, and so we have 3 additional positions that, in addition to the 2 that we have, we did hire one of those. They accepted last week, so we'll have 3 employees here, and we have 2 additional positions open right now to help with the build-out up here in Nash County. And I will walk through this relatively quickly. Again, this is an overview, but I actually think someone asked for this. I actually think it's a pretty good visual of kind of how the network is built. And again, a lot of this is really driven by the data that we ultimately get, initially from you all, but now as we receive more data where people are actually raising their hand and signing up, it helps us to kind of understand what this looks like. So within Phase 1, you'll recall, we tied into, this was a trial service, we tied into fiber here in Nashville. We then sent that service wirelessly to a tower, that's the one in the middle there. And then we sent the service just north and south. One is about 10 miles out, one's about 8 miles out. And we brought these folks optimally online. Moving into Phase 2, when we move to permanent, obviously we can't continue to use a trial service from the county, internet service from the county for additional phases. So we brought service in right out of Rocky Mount. And then we added a little bit of redundancy to the network in the event that one of these towers is to go down. Once everything is completed, it won't affect the other towers that are out there. These are the 5 towers you'll from earlier. The towers are all done, the network is live, and we're, like I mentioned, about a week or 2 away from all of those going live and all the users coming online. Phase 3 brings the other areas, and the lines that are being drawn are actual wireless connections. That's how these towers all get connected. We don't use fiber everywhere because it's costly. So we bring that service in Rocky Mount as an example because we can get service less expensive there. And we also tie into Fiber North here as well. But the way that this is designed, it's relatively complex, but optimally it's designed so that if any one or two towers were to go down, the rest of the network continues to stay live. So these are the other areas that will be coming online. And you can see, Ms. Richardson, I think you asked about kind of the smaller areas of service. You'll see there's actually 3 services that have much smaller circles. These are the 3 trials that we're working on right now that we'll be using to optimally extend the network without having to bear the cost of an entire tower. So we're hopeful that those will go well, and we'll be able to place those throughout the county as well. And I'll add one more, just to kind of give you an idea of where we are headed, and also to kind of show how this technology can be future-proofed. We're actually working on this in another county. We're actually starting this way in Harnett County. But we can then go from our towers for areas that have density. If there's a community or there's a residential neighborhood, we can then take fiber from our towers and actually go from the towers out to the communities themselves. This brings much higher packages. It is a little bit more costly, but in areas where we have stronger density or where it's just a little bit further to extend that network, it gets a lot more fiber into the community, which ultimately will bring much higher speeds down the road. So this will come down the road once we get an understanding and the network is built. But it is a methodology that we're using in a couple other communities, both Harnett and Pitt County. We're taking this approach. It's a lot more costly, but ultimately it does get much higher speeds down the roads. But we can do this at any point onto the network. These are also areas to where we can apply for both more state and federal grants as those come along. We obviously do intend on applying in 2021 for additional state funding. The reason we believe that additional funding will be available is because they're kind of lowering that threshold that we discussed earlier. That 10 by 1 is the most that we can apply for. But if they open up to, at a state level, to where we can get funding for anything less than 25 by 3, that'll open up a lot more areas in Nash County that we can apply for additional funding for. I think that's it. Any questions?
Questions from board members?
Sean, can you take just a minute and explain repeater poles?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So in some harder to reach areas, there's a lot of dots on the map. There's a lot of dots that are not in the areas that we currently are servicing. So we're looking for alternative ways to get that service to those areas, or even some dots that are actually within those circles that may be obstructed. Maybe they're at a lower elevation or whatever the case may be. So we've been working with the Electric Membership Co-op to basically set poles in those particular areas. It's a less expensive way for us to get service to an area. And so we have a couple technologies that we're using, basically, again, a lower cost technology we can put on that pole to help bring that service to that area. So we can use those to receive service. So if someone really wants service in a particular area, we can set a pole, attach equipment to it because it's a lot higher than a home. We can do those up to 60 feet and then bring that service to the home. But we can also use them to, like you mentioned, to repeat that service out. It's a lot less expensive. Optimally, we were hoping to be between around 5,000 and 10,000 because that really, it's got to meet the certain numbers and thresholds. But we have, again, those 3 sites that we're mentioning of bringing that service and trying that service to bring service to an area of, call it 5 to 10 additional homes that we want to try to get onto the network. Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
absolutely.
How far, maybe you can answer, maybe not, how far City of Rocky Mount towers reach out beyond the city? Any at all?
From Rocky Mount.
Yeah.
So the tower that I had mentioned, that I guess, no keyboard here. Previous. I guess this will work. So that would be this tower right here. So that's a general coverage area of that tower that's by Rocky Mount, the one where the arrow
That
is.
one that you have there, you're pointing to,
Yes, sir.
covered, that's what Rocky Mount, that probably catches a part of, outside of the city.
That's correct.
Other questions?
Just put out a book. Did everybody get that? The big book that has all the statistics for, okay, it came in on Friday. And it indicated that Nash, it had it for every county and all kinds of statistics by county. And it said that Nash had 73% high-speed internet accessibility, and 17% of the households did not have any type of computer device. Does that sound like,
Sounds more accurate.
does it?
Yeah, so we also, I mean, we're receiving a lot of data. I mean, the forms that we have, and I believe that we'll actually start to create another one. Right now, the form that's up there on the site, basically, they go to it and they're signing up for service. I fear in that a little bit, obviously, from a corporation standpoint, we want real customers that are on the network. But I think we're going to likely create a form that will help us justify some of the grants by having an inquiry form instead of just a sign-up form, so that folks can go onto it, sign up, and even check the box saying that I want internet, but I can't necessarily afford it. Because that's good data for us as we start to figure out how to address affordability.
Those numbers, does that seem like typical and average across the state or in the counties that you're aware of? Or are we ahead, behind?
Good question. We can definitely look at the data to determine. I would say, if you look to your neighbors, places like Martin County and Edgecombe County, I think there are more service gaps in those particular areas. But even if you look into, Pitt County as an example, yeah, Greenville is very well served. But by land mass wise, there's actually a huge part that's underserved. But I'd be interested in pulling the stats and reporting back to you guys, at least on what we've found.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You ready, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Item 5.
Next, for our inside presentation, often commissioners are asked, what do county tax dollars go for? And so today, we're going to try to provide some information to residents of the county to explain that. And Mr. Lamb is going to provide some information, followed by our finance director, Ms. Wood. And please feel free to ask any questions that you might have regarding any of this information.
Thank you, Mr. Outlaw, Commissioner Outlaw, and the board. Would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to our retiring commissioner, Ms. Richardson. We're going to miss you a whole lot, and I know all of the county staff, employees, department heads are going to miss you also. Thank you so much for all you've done for this county all the years. And I would like to thank the staff and our department heads as y'all know, we have 650 full-time employee positions budgeted approximately, and I'm going to take this off. I just want to thank y'all for all you do for our staff. I want to thank, on this presentation, I want to thank Donna Wood. She pretty much put it together, and we asked Doris Sumner to be here in case there were any tax questions that I couldn't answer. So she's here also. It's often said that North Carolina, ooh, I've got to do this, don't I? You want to do that? It's often said that in North Carolina, county government is the level of government closest to the people. It impacts all our citizens. In North Carolina, all citizens live in one of the 100 counties. Only about half of our citizens live in a municipality, a city, a town, or a village. I'm going to briefly talk about the history of county government in North Carolina. County governments are created by the state. The state created each of the counties. The state has the power to divide counties like they did with Edgecombe and Nash at one time. And the reason we have county governments, and you'll notice that most county seats are in the middle of the county, just like Nashville. And it's because in the 1800s, it was impossible for everyone to go to Raleigh to file papers and deeds and things like that. And so the state created county governments, and that way you can do all your official business. You could do all your official business by coming to your county seat. And that is the main reason the state created the counties. And just like they created the counties, the state can, as I said, divide counties, combine counties. We are creatures, often said, of the state. Early on, the governor appointed justices of the peace to run and oversee each county and to carry out the mandated policies and services of state government. After the Civil War, the North Carolina Constitution of 1868 gave citizens more input into electing their local leaders. Citizens were given the power to elect the sheriff, the coroner, which I believe there might be one left in the state, or that might have been eliminated also recently. Register of deeds, clerk of courts, surveyor, and treasurer. In many states, you still have an elected treasurer in counties, but in North Carolina, we no longer have elected treasurers. As well as the newly created Board of Commissioners came out of the 1868 Constitution. Commissioners replaced the appointed justices of the peace and were given full financial responsibility for the county, which included adopting a budget and setting the property tax rate. Today, citizens still elect the commissioner, sheriff, register of deeds, and the clerk of court, although the court system has transferred to state government, and counties still provide some services for courts like facilities, but employees of the court system are state employees now. Counties remain an arm of state government and carry out the many services that are mandated by state and federal governments. Counties exist to enhance the lives of their citizens. County governments do this by providing needed services such as public and mental health, care, schools, libraries, and support to senior citizens and children. Counties establish important local laws called ordinances and enforce laws that protect citizens from harmful behavior. They also encourage citizens and businesses to get involved in their communities. So who runs a county? Ultimately, the citizens of the county run the county because they decide who will represent them on the Board of County Commissioners. As of the 3rd of November, every one of y'all have been elected by the citizens of our county. Commissioners serve for 4-year terms. 3 of you are elected in one even number year, and 4 of you are elected in the next even number year. So we have staggered terms, so you don't have all 7 commissioners perhaps coming in at the same time. Citizens can volunteer to serve on various advisory boards and committees appointed by the commissioners and participate in public meetings. We have each month we have public comments period. We also have public hearings on issues that come along that citizens can participate in. And we also encourage citizens to volunteer to serve on various boards. The commissioners, the Board of Commissioners sets the property tax rate and adopts the budget each year. The board also establishes county policies by adopting resolutions and local laws called ordinances. The commissioners have statutory authority to appoint a county manager or administrator. The last administrator was replaced by a county manager, I believe about 8 years ago. So all 100 counties in North Carolina have county managers, which county managers historically had more authority than county administrators. County managers oversee the day-to-day operations of county government, while the commissioners focus on setting policy. The sheriff and register of deeds are also elected officials. They have independent authority to adopt specific policies for their departments. Their financial workings go through the finance office, but as far as policies, personnel matters, things like that, the elected sheriff and the elected register of deeds has independent authority. In addition, several independent or nearly independent local boards have responsibilities for such things as alcohol beverage control, your ABC system, your stores throughout the county. Elections, the elections board is, the finances are run through the county. However, they have an independent board. They pick the elections director with the approval of the State Board of Elections. Mental health, public health, and social services each have boards that are independent of the county commissioners and the county. And they have the power and authority to appoint directors and make local policies. Similarly, as y'all know, in North Carolina, we have elected boards of education. They are elected by the citizens. In our county, we have a 11-member board of education, and they're responsible for setting education policy and setting the school system's budget. None of these other boards have the power to tax citizens, however. Only the county commissioners in county government can tax the people. Cities, towns, and villages have independent authority to tax also. A lot of people, as the vice chairman said, want to know what they get for their tax dollars to county government. Recently, I had someone from Rocky Mount inquire why they had to pay county taxes since they lived in Rocky Mount. And so what we've got here is a list of mandated services. These are services that the General Assembly has said that we must provide. Some of these services, you have just state dollars. Some of these services, you have no dollars coming from the state. Some of these services, you have federal dollars coming through the state to the counties. We are responsible to help fund public education. Historically, the state dealt with the paying teachers and the current expense of education. Counties were responsible for the capital improvements. Those lines have been blurred in recent years as the counties have been putting in more and more dollars for public education, and occasionally the state will come through with some capital funding also. One thing that we do in public education that I want the public to know is of all the counties in North Carolina, Nash County has the 11th highest supplement for teachers. And that is almost $5,000 a year per teacher. I think it's 40-some hundred, but that is a big commitment that Nash County commissioners and school board have made to public education current expense. We also are responsible for social services. In some states, social services are totally state operated, particularly in New England and in some western states. The county is not involved at all in social services. But in North Carolina, we do receive funds from the state and the federal government, and we are responsible for implementing social service programs. We also have public health programs that also receive state and federal dollars. Now, when I say that social services and public health receives state and federal dollars, over half their money still comes from taxpayers of our county. So we do contribute to those, particularly in the administration and salaries. We provide mental health. Counties are responsible for mental health agencies. There used to be 41 in North Carolina throughout the state. Now there are 7, and but we are part of a mental health agency. By law, we must provide jails for pretrial, and more, we're being held responsible to provide for misdemeanants who are sentenced to jail or to prison. If they get convicted of a misdemeanor, then they stay local. But we're, based on the Constitution and current law, we must provide the sheriff with funding to do his job. We must either have a medical examiner or contract with a medical examiner, which is what this county, and I believe just about every county does in North Carolina. We must provide support for the court system. The new courthouse addition was 100% provided for by the taxpayers of Nash County. No grants. We were responsible as a Board of Commissioners. Y'all were responsible for making sure that the court system had adequate facilities. We also are responsible by law to provide emergency management. That includes, well, that's later, EMTs. Until about 20 years ago, and 30, 40, 50 years ago, y'all probably, some of y'all may remember, the hospitals had the ambulance service. And there was no EMS. But the General Assembly mandated many years ago that all counties must provide a emergency medical service system for their county. The Register of Deeds, we're mandated to provide for the Register of Deeds. And of course, the Register of Deeds, they take deeds when people transfer land. They take deeds of trust when somebody borrows money from a lending institution. And more importantly, to a lot of people, especially genealogy people, they provide information on all births and deaths in a county. And that provides a very important function for a lot of people that are able to access that information. We must also provide for elections administration. Even though the commissioners don't appoint the Board of Elections, nor do they appoint the elections director, the county is responsible for providing the personnel, the equipment for elections, and must pay all costs associated with elections. Once in a while, we will see, after Bush v. Gore, we saw a lot of money come down to the states and to the counties to update equipment. But generally speaking, it's the county's responsibility to provide elections administration. Counties also must provide building code enforcement. And we must also fund and provide for tax listing and assessment personnel. Like I said, we have our tax administrator with us today. And as I mentioned before, emergency medical services and solid waste management. About 25 years ago, 92, 93, I believe it was, the state upgraded what types of landfills we could have. They all have to be lined now. That's all state and federal regulation. And that is to keep the water tables and everything safer. And so every county is responsible for providing for waste management. Doesn't mean we have to have our own landfill. It means we must make sure that waste in our county has a place to be disposed of. One thing we don't do at the county level since the 30s was, unlike municipalities, we are not in the road business. We all get calls about having a problem with a road. The state provides road maintenance on state-maintained roads, and cities and towns provide for road maintenance. However, counties are prohibited from building roads, repairing roads. So that's one thing people a lot of times do not realize. Now, municipalities are set up because people in an area want higher levels of service. Historically, counties weren't in the water and sewer business. And so cities, towns were created to provide such things as water and sewage services. But they can also provide some of the things we provide: public libraries, parks and rec, senior services, veteran services, and as I said, water and sewer services. So the counties have mandated services we must provide for all the citizens of our county. The establishment and the existence of municipalities are not required. It's the people that want to have a town or city. And occasionally you will see where a town created 200 years ago will unincorporate because they've lost so many of their citizens in that small area that it doesn't make sense to continue. But the counties can't unincorporate. We are here and we are responsible for many, many things mandated by the state and federal governments. The largest source of revenue for county government, I would say just about every county in North Carolina, is the tax, property tax, ad valorem taxes. I know they're about 54% of our total tax base, our revenue base, and it's based on the value of property. So if you have a piece of property worth $50,000 and your neighbor has a piece of property worth $100,000, then based on the tax rate, which is applied equally for all property throughout the county, the person with the $100,000 property would pay twice as much property tax as the person with $50,000. We tax residential and commercial real estate, automobiles, boats. The taxing authority performs an appraisal every 8 years of property, as far as real property is concerned, and the tax is assessed based on that value. The second largest source of revenue, which was about 17% last year, and we'll have some graphs at the end, is the sales tax. It's applied to purchases of tangible personal property like clothes, furniture, groceries, just about everything these days has a sales tax on it. And that accounts for about 17% of our total budget. I think last year it was about $15 million that we collected. And with COVID, we were concerned that that number was going to go down, but it did not. We have maintained a steady sales tax collection month after month, and so we hope that continues. Also, there are intergovernmental revenues that come from the state and federal government to offset the cost of certain programs, most typically public health and social services. We've got some other taxes, miscellaneous taxes here. Beer and wine privilege taxes, video programming services. That's what we use to pay for the new system we have here in the commissioner's room. Rental vehicle tax. If you have an airport or you have car dealerships, that county is going to have a lot more of that tax than counties that do not have airports and car dealerships. The excise tax, when you sell a piece of property, you pay excise tax, which is 2.2% per hundred. So if you sell a piece of property worth $10,000, you must pay an excise tax of $20. I believe that's right. And also, we have the beer and wine excise tax and the ABC bottle tax. A lot of those funds go to mental health services, and that's a good thing. Sales and services, counties also derive revenue from other sources such as locally imposed fees for services like recreation. If you want to participate in a recreation program, you might be charged $20, $25. Usually, this county doesn't try to make a profit. We simply try to pay for the equipment and the uniforms and T-shirts that the participants have are using. And also, the sheriff has charges fees for concealed weapon permits and registrations, and we also are allowed to charge for emergency medical services. Most people are either Medicaid eligible, and Medicare, or have private insurance. So that's where most of your emergency medical services fees come from. And also our health department, through environmental health, charge fees for restaurant inspections and building permits. We also make money off our county reserves, investment earnings. When you can get 6% on your money, that's a good thing. Right now, we're getting about 0.05%. Very little on investment earnings did we budget for this year. Where does the money go? Well, different counties have different percentages of where the money goes, depending on the wealth of the county. But in every county, about 80 to 85% of their revenues go towards public education, human services, and public safety. I can tell you there are counties that spend a lot more on public education than they do human services and public safety. There's some that provide more for human services because they have a lot of low wealth people, and they are eligible for certain programs in DSS. But generally, the largest source of expenditures for most counties, and that's been dwindling in recent years, counties are required to build and maintain public school buildings, and we offer, like many counties, a salary supplement. As I said, we have the 11th highest in North Carolina teacher supplement. And they're to help attract and retain qualified teachers. And counties also must pay for personnel like teachers' aides. Human service programs, we provide funding for mental health. Trillium is our mental health provider. Public health, which has really come into focus during the last year with COVID. And we're fortunate to have a mental health director with 40-some years' experience. And Mr. Hill does a great job. Social services. We have more social service employees than any other department. That's because of the mandated federal programs that we must provide. We currently have as our social services director, Amy Hamlet. She has, I believe, 170 employees. And they provide things like food, nutrition, Medicaid services, energy assistance, and other programs. We also provide for Veteran Services Office. And this Board of Commissioners has really stepped up to the plate in the last 5 years. We didn't even have an office in Nash County. Now we have an office right here in the building with 2 full-time employees servicing over 8,000 veterans in Nash County. Public safety, that's the third main component of county spending. We have the Sheriff's Office, Sheriff's Department, Sheriff's Office, and he has probably about 100 employees, emergency medical services, emergency communications, 911, animal control, court security, and jail operations. So that's the 3 main components of county dollars. We also, you can add a little to particularly the education and the courts, is the debt service that we pay out when we borrow money to build schools or a courthouse or a jail. The county sells bonds and borrows the money in order to provide those mandated facilities, and the county then pays that out of the general fund. We also have economic and physical development, planning and inspection, soil conservation, cooperative extension, airport, and economic development operations. General government, which is about 10% of the spending for county government throughout the state, really. You've got your administrative offices, county manager's office, grants and intergovernmental here in our county, Patsy McGee, tax office, finance office, register of deeds is in that category, Board of Elections spending is in that category, human resources, facilities, and management information systems, better known as IT, is all part of general government operations. And all those functions together only account for 10% of county spending. And then cultural and recreation, you're talking about parks and rec and libraries. Let's look at Nash County in the current year budget. The total value of all property assessed in Nash County, and that includes everything during the last revow in 2017, plus all new construction, all new additions, all new equipment that has been generated, and all new cars. That total value of property is $7,733 million. So 1 penny generates at about $773,000 at 100% collection. This county has a 67-cent tax rate, which this Board of Commissioners has maintained since January of 2009, and without any increase. Even when we did the revow in 2017, the revenue neutral number would have been higher than 67 cents. It was, I think, about 69 cents, and the commissioners did not want to even raise the rate. So we stayed at 67 cents, and so for 12 years now, we've had the same tax rate, 67 cents per $100 valuation. Last year, we collected $50,516,000 in ad valorem property tax. When we do our budget each year, we calculate at 97.5%. And that is being conservative in case you have a recession or whatever. And last year, thanks to the hard work of Doris and her staff, we obtained the highest tax collection rate in the history of the county that we can find, looking at old audits. And that was 99.06%. Just a remarkable number when you consider 10 years ago we were around 95%. As I said, we have a revaluation every 8 years. The last one was 2017. The next one will be 2025. Some counties have them more often than every 8 years. It would be very difficult for us to do that, as much as a county manager would love to have them every 4 years to get the values up and reduce the tax rate. We have Rocky Mount, and they're in 2 counties, and we need to have our revow for the sake of Rocky Mount, when Edgecombe has their revow. Of the sales tax that you pay when you buy goods and services, we get 2% of that, the county does. And as I said, that's approximately $15 million. We share those. There's 2 ways counties are authorized to share those sales tax with cities and towns. You can either do it based on the tax rate and the amount of tax levy, or you can do it based on population. We choose the method that really helps the municipalities slightly, and that's based on per capita. So the next slide you'll see is a pie chart. You'll see that 53% of our revenues come from property tax, 17% from sales tax, and 15% from intergovernmental revenues. Again, that's for each social service position, the state pays about half that cost, and they get money from the feds to send to us those dollars. We used to have to pay for Medicaid, but we don't have to do that for the last 10 years, and that's been great for counties. You can see that the only other thing on that pie chart would be I'm looking for debt service. No, I'm sorry, that's an expenditure, sorry. On the next pie chart, you'll see where the money goes. And it's remarkable when you look at this, that 26% of our dollars goes to public education, 26% of our dollars go to human services, and 26% of our dollars go to public safety. You can also see, as I was trying to point out on the wrong page, about 6% goes towards debt service. And again, that's money that's going towards education facilities and usually public safety facilities. So you could really add 3% to both of those figures, but this is the way we report it. General government, as I mentioned, those services mainly in this building are about 10% of your total expenditures. And that's really about it. I will just say that the fact that we have such an even breakdown of those 3 main functions, which here are 78%, plus the 6% for debt service, amounts to about 83% of all county expenditures go towards those three functions, which are vital to the welfare of our citizens. Here you'll see where your dollars go. It says property tax revenues are used to support many county programs, but not all programs require the same amount of tax revenue. Some programs, particularly social services and health departments, receive revenues from other levels of government. And you can see on that chart down there, even though a third, they're each 26% of our expenditures, because we get a set-off for social services and health department, because we get revenues from the state and federal governments. 15 cents for each county dollar goes towards human services, and about 31 cents for education, 30 cents for public safety. Finally, I want to talk about some capital projects that our county dollars have gone to in the last 12 years. You can see the chart here. The county commissioners of Nash County have really invested in infrastructure over the last 12 years. Just to give you a quick analysis here, farmers market expansion, emergency communications backup center, EMS station, Southern Nash Field House, Rocky Mount High School, Nash County Maintenance Building, Nashville Senior Center, Nash Community College renovations, Middlesex Elementary School renovations. Just in the last 5 years, the commissioners have invested in the Nashville EMS station, the Farmers Market Building number 2 doors in addition. Y'all remember that the second building didn't have any doors for a while, and now they do. And we've also invested in the sound system at the Farmers Market. Nash Community College, early college renovations. That allowed, the money y'all put into that project allowed them to double the number of kids that are able to go to the early college. We did the courthouse expansion, the public safety radio project, the agricultural center HVAC replacement and other building renovations, Southern Nash Senior Center, detention center repairs and renovations. Of course, y'all spent about $1.5 million on renovations at the detention center, and the new addition and renovations will be another $10 million. You've heard today about the high-speed internet, phase 1 and 2, and starting next year, or now and going into next year, we hope to complete certain projects. Miracle Park is about complete. High-speed internet phase 3, detention center renovations, new elementary school at Northern Nash, and in the next month or two, there will be an announcement about our animal shelter expansion. So that's just some of the things that our county tax dollars are going towards for the citizens of Nash County. I would like to thank, again, Donna Wood for her help on this. Oh, there she is. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Well, there was one thing in your presentation on county organization. I believe you said that county commissioners are elected staggered and in 4-year terms. But has Durham and Orange and Chatham County changed I think all their commissioners run at the same time for re-election, or they have an election every 2 years.
Yeah, Durham has changed. They've gone to 4-year staggered terms, 5 members, 3 and 2. They elected, I believe, 3 this year. I think the only one that has not changed from 2-year terms is Mecklenburg. Mecklenburg still has 9 people elected for 2-year terms. I believe that's right, but most counties have gone, there used to be a lot of counties in the mountains that had 3 commissioners. Most of them, I think all of them have gone to 5 commissioners. And some did elect them all at the same time, but it's, in the last 25 years, more and more counties have gone to 4-year terms.
Could I just mention a couple of things?
Sure.
Back on the page that says 2 types of services North Carolina counties provide, mandated and citizen requested. These are services that are provided to all Nash County citizens, whether you live in a municipality or not.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the top 3 would be public education, social services, and public health. And I think that would be somewhere around 85% of the total county budget.
Along with the jail and the sheriff.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to mention the jail, that's a
Yeah.
part of public safety. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
And those services, I see where you're going. Those services are not provided by municipalities.
Yeah, I'm just trying to clarify a few things that I think it's important that the people understand. So about 85% in those 3 categories, and that's provided, mandated to all citizens. Whether you have a child in school or not, you have to help pay for public education, their capital as well.
That's correct.
So for the jails and the sheriff is the sheriff of all of Nash County, not just the rural parts of Nash County.
That's right.
So the sheriff is very active within the municipalities as needed.
Yes.
That's very important. I think people need to understand that.
The modern sheriff, historically, sheriffs were responsible for the detention center, court security, service of process, papers, and rural law enforcement. However, they've always had concurrent jurisdiction with city and town police, and more so now, given the expertise that counties can sometimes provide to smaller towns and cities. Sheriffs have really started providing services throughout the county.
And this sheriff is very committed to that.
He is.
And that's very obvious that he is not just supporting the rural parts of the county, he's very active.
Absolutely.
Throughout the county. Citizen requested, there are public libraries outside of our major municipality, Rocky Mount. And we help fund those libraries,
That's correct.
all of them.
That's correct. They used to be independent, just, we'd give them a little bit of money. We've increased the amount we're giving, but they're all part of a unified system now through Braswell. And so the money we get from the state each year, which is about $130,000, goes to Braswell, but it is used to supplement Middlesex, Bailey, Spring Hope, and Whitakers.
So Braswell is our largest library
Right.
in the county, which is located in the city. But the county provides,
50% of the funding.
thank you, parks and recreation and senior services. The county has its own parks and recreation and senior services, as do the largest municipality and some of the other municipalities. But all the services in the county are available to all citizens of the county.
Correct.
So in other words, if you're in the city of Rocky Mount, which is the largest municipality, the children from the city can come to the county and utilize these services. And the senior citizens can come and utilize the services.
And they pay the same fee that county residents pay, whereas a lot of towns and cities, if you don't live in that town or city, you might have to pay more to participate in a Parks and Rec program.
Exactly. Veteran Services, I appreciate you mentioning that. That was a significant change for the
Really
county.
was.
And I know our veterans are appreciative of that. And then finally, I wanted to mention on the other capital projects for 2021 and beyond, don't forget the convenience center for District 5. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good presentation.
Even though the board hadn't approved it yet, but we've talked about the field house for Northern Nash in District 7.
That's right.
What?
I do appreciate you mentioning the fact that Nash County is 11th in supplemental pay. That's what, yeah, it surprised me a little bit too, but that's what many people, not many, but some people would refer to, goes into the gap funding
Right.
with the funding for the Nash County Public Schools.
Right. And that is.
That's a big deal.
That's a new, until about 5 years ago, when this board decided it was going to increase a 6% salary supplement to 8, 9, and then 10%. We're now at 10%. Y'all provide funds for the school system to give each teacher a 10% salary supplement.
Thank you, sir.
Could I get a copy of that report?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I need one Wednesday morning to speak to a group, would help me a lot.
This report right here, this financial report, which has the graphs and all that stuff in it, that's also available to anyone that would wish to have a copy of it.
Absolutely.
And it pretty much gives a lot of the information that you just went over.
County government, and this county has a reputation of being very forthcoming with public records. And pretty much anything that we produce that isn't an exception under the Public Records Act is readily available. Our audits, our budgets, anything. We try to turn that around as quick as possible if anybody, any citizen wants any of that information. Any further questions?
I appreciate you taking the time to present this to us. It helps with transparency in government.
Thank you. You have anything?
I got one question. How unusual is it, because this stuck out to me about 3 years ago, but how unusual is it for a county to have those three major expenditures almost identical?
Very unusual. I've never seen it before. Some low-wealth counties might spend twice as much on public health and public and social services than they do for education. That's the Leandro case and all that, is these poor counties are burdened so much with, not poor counties, you're not supposed to say, low-wealth counties are burdened so much with their share of social services and those costs that there's not many dollars left to do public education and public safety to the degree we do it. I would say that to have those three principal functions within 1% of each other, I think you'd be hard to find another county that's so evenly divided.
I think I mentioned it first 2 years ago in my State of the County address, because I wouldn't want to run across that fact. But it looks like, to me, it would be a goal for a county to be able to do that almost. Seems like it would be a very fair way to cover all of your citizens in the county to be able to handle it in an equal basis like that.
Yeah, I mean, we'd all like to get the social services costs down, but we have 17% of our population are receiving those services. And,
So that went up some, didn't it? Didn't that go up in the past 2 years? One time was 15%. It's up now.
I got that figure out of that book I was passing around. That's pretty up to date, yes, sir.
But you know, I was surprised, Wake County, and this was, I got this last week, 15% of that total population is on social service.
I've been in counties where it was 30%.
But I was just thinking about, it's one of the wealthiest counties in the state, but they have a lot of people living in that county.
All right?
A million population, and 15% of them on social service.
Yep.
The booklet that came through here that you spoke of earlier, do we have those in our mailbox?
No, I received it Friday
mail?
as manager,
The
but
new
I
one.
assumed they were sending them to all the commissioners.
I think we've been getting them.
But we can get them. We can get additional copies, and we will get
Well, just check to
additional.
see if they are coming, 'cause I'd sure love to have one of them.
Yeah.
You give me this to me?
Yeah, you see it?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Item 6, Commissioner Outlaw.
Yes, sir, thank you. We're going to do our committee or special reports now. And sadly, I call on Commissioner Richardson for her last report to this board. I trust that she'll stay aware of what's going on and stay active in county government through working with the other commissioners. Thank you for your service. It's been my great honor to serve with you,
Thank you.
Ms. Richardson.
As you know, since we've been on the shutdown with the virus, our committee have not been meeting, but I do check in periodically with Don Bozeman, and they stay in contact with the administrators of these facilities and work with them and keep us updated on what's going on, how it's going on. But hopefully we'll get back to do our business soon, but not right now.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Any questions for Ms. Richardson? Hearing none. District 2, Commissioner Belfield.
Farmers Market, we had a meeting, week before last, and we received a summary. We discussed the summary that the lady that's in charge made a report, and we had so far this year, in which they close out the end of this month, total vendors of 48. And the farmers market has applied for a grant to help promote the market. And there's a program where you can get vouchers, and let's see how many people's, those tokens for this year, there were $16,967 spent using those tokens. They call it SNAP EBT, benefits spent by the market customers. When they put it all together, fresh buck tokens and all put together, amount of money spent was $21,609. And they, let's see what else in here that I need to just highlight on. I believe that's it, other than just giving you type of vegetables and things that are being sold there and the name of those that are selling. That's for the farmers market. Any questions?
Well, if you would just make a note if you need dollars to promote the farmer's market. Have your board talk to me about TDA funding possibly?
Yeah, but that's one thing that I have pushed is have a marketing budget. And that's what they're gonna apply for a grant to do more than what we're doing at this time. And we meet, schedule, if nothing doesn't get in the way, schedule a meeting in January to deal with that. Upper Coastal Plain Juvenile Crime Prevention, I have not participated but one time, and I gave the last report, and the last meeting I didn't participate in, so I don't have anything to report at this time. Upper Coastal Plain Council of Government, we did have a meeting. It's been about 2 weeks ago. No, it was in October, so it was more than 2 weeks ago. They have this program going on now, Healthy Food Access Mapping Project especially for senior citizens, and they're applying for a grant for that. They also have a committee that's working with the counties on broadband, and I don't know have they made any, I think Pets is on that committee.
She is.
I believe she is. I think I spoke to her about that, and she told me yes. Yeah, okay. They're continuing to, and plus they're supposed to be getting a grant from the state of $24,000, and they're gonna divide up between the 5 counties, which comes somewhere around $4,000 in working with each county on broadband. And they also, during the pandemic, is going to work with the senior centers, with the senior citizens, especially on the Healthy Food Project. Only one county does not have a senior citizen, that's Northampton County, and they're working on trying to get one there for the senior citizens. Unemployment that was for the 5-county area that was reported at our meetings, 8%. I think Nash County is what, something like close 6.5. I believe that's what was reported, average 8% for the 5-county area. Any question about Upper Coastal Plain Council? All activities, awards and banquet and everything for that Upper Coastal that we normally have has been canceled. We would not have any of that this year. All right, for need, we are now operating under interim administration, and we'll be advertising. Stacy, do you know how soon that's gonna go out?
I don't know yet. We haven't set a date yet.
I don't think they have yet.
No, they're reviewing the job description.
But anyway, things are going pretty smooth, and I think you would agree with it, since we had this change. And that's basically all I have to say about need. And that's good. Oh, Tar River Transit. We were scheduled to meet this past Thursday. We had all that rain and the storm and everything, and the city didn't open up until 10 o'clock that day, and some services they canceled. And we were scheduled to meet at 9, so our executive director of Tar River Transit called us and canceled, and it hasn't been rescheduled. He said he would notify. But One thing that we were supposed to do on that, I can report that to you. When we do, we got to act on applying for a grant for a community transportation program, $353,680. And there has to be a match to that of $53,044. And a capital fund of $66,500, and the match for that is $6,650. And we're required by the federal government to have a non-discriminatory program in place. So that's another thing that we will be approving when we meet. And it's called Title VI. It's a program document that they require all transportation units, administrators to have available to the employees as well as posted for the public. And that is my report.
Any commissioner questions for Mr. Belfield? Mr. Chairman, Mr. Manager, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to clarify something I said to a question from Mr. Belfield. Durham has gone to 4-year terms. They no longer have 2-year terms, but apparently they are all elected at the same time and not staggered at this point. I think I said they had gone to 4 year terms and they were staggered, and apparently they are not staggered.
Thank you, Mr. Belfield. District 3, Commissioner Cone.
Thank you, sir. Health and Human Services Board has not met since February the 20th. We do have a meeting scheduled for this Thursday afternoon here in this room. The Agriculture Advisory Board has not met since we last did this. Trillium met November 24th. They're everything's kind of on hold because of the COVID, you know. I've talked to you before about Medicaid transformation. That is back on track. Planning to go live with the standard plan in July 1st, 2021. That might be kicked down the road again. I've explained a little bit I know about that before. It means that 75% though of the individuals that Trillium is currently administering to will be handled by private insurance companies. Trillium will only handle the worst case people, and they will handle their entire care. They won't be losing anything. It'll balance out about the same, but they'll be handling the most severe cases, and they'll be handling all their care, not just mental. So that's been talked about for a couple of years, but it's planned for July 1st, 2021. And that's all I have. We meet again next Tuesday.
Any questions for Commissioner Cone? Thank you, sir. District 4, Commissioner Leggett.
Thank you, Commissioner Outlaw. First, I have to report on the hospital board. The Board of Commissioners of the Nash UNC Hospital last met on November 5th, in person and virtually. Nash Hospital continues to have aggressive COVID precautions in place for its staff, patients, and any visitors. They are working hard to continue what should be normal operations and functions during this pandemic. The hospital has received federal COVID funding, and that's been a tremendous asset to allow them to continue to operate, have all the PPE necessary, and to put new procedures and infrastructure and protections in place. Nash UNC Healthcare Foundation, which is the charitable arm of the hospital, now has a new director. Her name is Kathleen Fleming. And she takes her new role in November 2020, this month. Next, I have to report on the STEP Board, which is the Strategic Twin Counties Education Partnership. They last met on October 20th virtually via Zoom. STEP is continuing to work with schools and students to promote improved educational outcomes in our area. And they've been holding virtual lunch and learn seminars for students, with the next one being focused on healthcare. It will be held this Wednesday, November 18th at noon. Recently, STEP released their 2019-2020 impact report. This is what it looks like. And all the commissioners should have received one in their mailbox, and the public can find a copy of it on the organization's website, which is step-partnership.org. And STEP also has a very good website with lots of resources and a Facebook page with more information for the public. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Leggett. Any questions for Commissioner Leggett? Hearing none. District 5. The Rural Planning Organization Transportation Advisory Committee last met on September the 9th. It was a Zoom meeting. There are no significant items to report from that meeting. Our next meeting is this Wednesday. It'll also be via Zoom. Nash Community College Board of Trustees, our last meeting was a Zoom meeting in September. Nothing significant to report from that meeting. Our next meeting is also a Zoom meeting, which is scheduled for 6 o'clock this evening. Nash County Broadband, I would ask you to reference minutes from the November 5th Nash County Broadband Committee meeting. That committee consists of myself, Chairman Davis, and Commissioner Cone. That meeting was with Cloudwise, and information, a lot of the information that was presented today is in those minutes. Again, Ms. McGee has left, but I want to thank her again for her facilitation of the presentation today. And I thank Donna Wood for her facilitation of the presentation on the finance. And thank you, Mr. Lamb, again for making that presentation. Our next Nash County Broadband Committee meeting with Cloudwise will be via Zoom. It's scheduled for December the 3rd at 10 a.m. And again, that's a meeting with the committee. Any questions? Hearing none. District 6, Commissioner Wells.
No report.
Thank you, Ms. Wells. And I'll turn it back over to Chairman Davis for District 7 reports.
Okay, Travel and Tourism Development Authority has not met since January, since May, and we will not be meeting until January. We will meet in some format at that time. The Rocky Mountain MPO has not met since December, believe it or not, but we are having a virtual meeting at 4:30 today. So I would have an update at the next meeting from that, Commissioner Outlaw.
Thanks, sir. Any questions for Chairman Davis?
Yep, just for a little clarification, basically, is that RPM, is that the, basically transportation?
The MPO is the Municipal Planning Organization, which I serve on. The RPO, which Commissioner Outlaw serves on, is rural. And what we do is set priorities on all funding that comes through the MPO. We approve all DOT projects. We assist in the prioritizing of those projects. And we also have funding that works through us for the airports as well as the transit system as well. It is represented by 3 Rocky Mountain City councilmen, myself from Nash County, a person from Edgecombe County, the town of Nashville has a representative, and the town of Sharpsburg has a representative. But that's pretty much what that consists of. It's a lot goes on at those meetings, and primarily it's just a lot in the funding that comes through DOT. And it, of course, has a member of the DOT, the local representative for DOT, Division 4 is on that committee as well. All right. Okay, we are now on item 7, is what we'll be going to next. Mr. Belfield, I made a note, I believe you got a birthday coming up next week.
Yep, Monday,
right? When?
this coming Monday,
It's coming Monday, okay.
Monday week.
Well,
and I will be 85 years old.
85 years old, how about that? Well, happy birthday, you'll have
Thank
that
you.
birthday before we meet again.
Thank you.
And I just hope, from a personal standpoint, that at 85 years old, I can do what you do, sir.
Yeah, you know, some people, I was telling some people were asking me last week about my age, and I told them, they said, now don't, we were at church at the time, they said, now don't tell a lie here in church, you know 85, a man 85 years old do what you do. I said, well, I'm not doing, I've cut back some, but not a whole lot.
Miss Belfield doing well, I hope. I know we got a notice on her.
Yes, she's doing fine. She's at Brian Aldridge Rehab. And my niece, who's a social worker in Durham County, was saying that she ought to stay there 100 days. I said, I don't think you're gonna be able to keep Ernestine there 100 days. And she ready to get out of there. She, even up there in Durham, at Duke, she told me to bring, what was that she told me to bring? So she was gonna get out the bed and you know, and told me to bring her computer.
Yeah, I know you told Jerry with me she wanted her tablet up there.
Yeah, she said, I'm getting up out of there. And the nurse said, no, you can't get up without our assistance. And that's the rule here.
You wanted her cane, what you said, I believe.
Yeah. And yeah, she did. She said, bring me my cane and bring me my computer. And
Good. Well, I'm glad you got
she said,
about
I
to
got to
Nash
get
County.
out of this bed.
Yeah. Glad you're able to get her back to Nash County, anyway.
Yeah. They wanted to keep her up there in rehab up there. They didn't think we had anything back here that would match the standard that they want.
That's a good place
And I
to be.
told them, I said, wait a minute, y'all need to check out Brian Aldridge. So they did, and they called me right back and said, everything's okay, she can go.
Great. Well, I hope she does well.
Good place.
Item 7 is a closed session, and that it would be for commissioners only, and it is a personnel matter, and to start the process of our annual review of our manager. And at this time, I would entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Chairman, before you do that,
Yes,
could
sir.
we have a break?
Let's call for closed session, and
Okay.
then we'd have to break in between. Is that okay?
Okay.
All right, I entertain a motion to go into closed session at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wells, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. I wonder why it came from that end of the podium today. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign.
I want to thank our sheriff for being here today.
Z.
We take a 10-minute recess, and then we'll come back to closed session.